Hello, today we will use UModeler X to perform isometric modeling within Unity. First, to create the basic floor and wall surfaces, we will use the box shape feature of UModeler X. When using the box shape feature, you can create a precise rectangle by entering the width, height, and depth. In the object settings on the right, enter the size of the floor as 3305 to create the object. Similarly, create the wall surface by entering the dimensions to form a rectangular object and place it alongside the floor. Adjust the position values to align the wall with the floor. Add one more object and again, enter the dimensions to create a rectangular wall and place it in position. The floor and walls for isometric modeling are now complete. Rename the created objects in the left hierarchy window. You can also set the exact size of the objects by entering values in the right window or easily create them with drag and drop on the screen. Create and place objects using the mouse drag and drop method. Next, let's create furniture to place inside the room. Position large pieces of furniture like the bed, desk, and shelf approximately. Even after creating a box object, you can adjust its position and size. To select an object, ensure the Object Selection button at the top of the screen is active. Change the object's pivot value to center. When the pivot value is set to center, the object's coordinates shift to its center. In this state, modify the position and size of the box to create a shelf attached to the wall. Check the overall appearance and make fine adjustments to the size and placement. If you want to duplicate the same object, select it in the left hierarchy window and click Duplicate. The duplicated object can have the same settings applied in UModeler X. Enable face selection in the Scene view by activating the Face Selection button at the top. Then, select Faces to transform the shape of the object. Let's create a desk by duplicating an object again. Notice that the gizmo is positioned at the corner of the object. Adjust the pivot position to move the gizmo to the center. Resize the object to match the dimensions of a desk. Enable face selection again and select faces to modify the shape. Adjust the size to approximate the dimensions of a desk. The basic placement of isometric objects like the bed, shelf, and desk is now complete. To create a flower pot, click the Object Creation button in the UModeler X interface at the top of Scene view. Select a cylinder to create the flower pot. Use drag and drop to create the flower pot, then modify the faces to shape it. Adjust the position and size to place the pot in a corner of the room. Enable face selection and modify the top face of the object. With only the top face selected, adjust its size. Press the Shift key while moving or resizing the face to create new faces. Hold Shift and move the face upward to create a new face. Next, let's create a bed by modifying objects. Move the pivot value of the bed object to the center. Duplicate the bed object and raise it. Slightly reduce its size to create the mattress. Lower the mattress and adjust its size from multiple angles. To create the bed's headboard, use the Loop Cut feature of UModeler X. The Loop Cut feature of UModeler X adds an Simply put, it is a function that divides a face. In the UModeler X settings on the right, click the Loop Cut button and select the face you want to cut. You can see a blue line indicating the position of the loop cut on the screen. Drag while holding the left mouse button to place the loop cut at the desired position. After using the loop cut function, you will see that one face has been divided into two. Now, select the headboard face and move it upwards while holding the Shift key to create the headboard. Select the back face of the headboard and slightly adjust its size. Set the loop cut steps back in the settings on the right, creating two lines dividing the face. Raise the center face of the headboard to shape it. Select all the faces at the bottom of the bed and modify them to create space beneath the bed. Similarly, adjust the faces of the mattress to fit inside the bed model. The mattress edges are currently sharp. We will use the bevel feature to round the edges. Select all the edges and apply the bevel feature from the settings on the right. The bevel feature allows you to set the distance and segment steps. After selecting all the faces, automatically set the smooth group in the settings on the right. The edges are now rounded with the bevel applied. Reactivate the hidden objects to check the created model. Next, we will proceed with modeling a shelf on the wall. Use Loop Cut to divide the face into two. Then utilize the Inset feature to create a face. Select the face to use Inset and click the Inset button in the right window. The Inset feature adds a face inward. A face has been created inward. Select the line and adjust the left and right spacing. Then, select the inner face and repeat the Inset function. Adjust the spacing by selecting the line and use the Inset function to select the divided middle faces. Using the Select function allows you to quickly select connected faces automatically. Hold the Shift button and push inward to create a gap. Let's create a door handle using the front face. Duplicate the face and place it in front of the door. Resize the duplicated face to match the shape of the door handle. Move the line to shape the handle, select the face, hold Shift, and move it forward to extrude the object. Next, we will create a bed table located under the shelf. The bed table will be designed with an open front. Select the front face and use the Inset function to create an inner face. Select the face, hold Shift, and push it inward to create the inner space of the bed table. Use the same method to inset and extrude the face to create the floor. The creation of the bed, shelf, and bed table is complete. Next, we will proceed with modeling the desk. Raise the bottom face to create the desktop first. Use Loop Cut to divide the face and extrude the bottom face to create the desk drawer. Create a face with Inset and push it inward to create the drawer space. Duplicate the face to create the drawer. Bring the face forward, hold Shift, and extrude the face to create the drawer. If the face is inverted, click the Flip button in the settings on the right to make the face point outward. The front face of the drawer is not created. In this case, select the top and bottom lines and use the Bridge function to create the face. Duplicate the created drawer to add another drawer above. Duplicate the object, resize it, and place it above the drawer. Use the Inset function to add a face to the front of the drawer and create detailed features on the drawer front. After Inset, select the edges to fine-tune the spacing, then select the face and move it inward to shape the front of the drawer. To create the handle, duplicate the face, resize it, and extrude it to easily create the handle part. Use the Inset and Extrude functions to create the bottom of the desk. Next, let's create the legs of the desk. Create a new object to make the legs for the desk. Adjust the size of the legs to match the proportions of the desk and create square-shaped legs. Use Extrude to create a face at the left end and extrude it downward to create square-shaped legs. Reactivate the previously hidden wall and floor to make them visible. The desk is not attached to the floor, so select the face and adjust the model to attach it to the floor. Adjust the length of the desk legs to ensure they touch the floor. Let's create a table lamp on the bed table. Create a new cylinder object and place it on the table. Hold Shift, lift it up, reduce its size, extrude it upwards again, and then adjust the size to create the lamp object. Select the middle face and slightly adjust its size to create the lighting object. Add lines to modify the shape of the light. For objects with curved shapes, after creating them, select all faces and automatically set the Smooth group to make the curved surfaces blend naturally. Next, let's create the flower pot. Select the top face of the pot, use Inset, and then reduce the size of the face to make it look like the pot is filled with soil. Slightly move the furniture to the side. Select the face of the created object to increase its size. Next, we will create a carpet. To create the carpet, duplicate the floor object and use the duplicated object. Raise the duplicated object and reduce its size. Then, select the rectangular edge and use the bevel function to transform its shape. When using the bevel function, adjust the values on the right finely and use the preview to set the bevel value. The carpet creation is complete. This time, we will create a hole in the left wall to install a window. Use Loop Cut to mark the position for the hole in the wall. After Loop Cut, you can select the edge to adjust the position. Double-clicking the edge selects all looped edges. Select the edge and move it to match the size of the window. Then, select the face and press the Delete key to remove it. Also remove the back face. This creates a wall with a hole. Select the edges to connect and use Bridge to create faces to fill the gap in the wall. Duplicate the wall and delete one side of the inner face to create the window. Extrude the face to create the window object. Select the bottom edge to fill the face. Adjust the size of the window frame and use Inset to create faces on the front and back. Create the faces for the glass window. Select the face, hold Shift, and move it inward to shape the window frame. Use Loop Cut to divide it in half and push one side further inward. After a horizontal loop cut, use Inset to create the window face. push the created face inward to complete the glass window. Let's model the top part of the window. Create a cylinder and make it into an elongated cylinder. Place it above the window and use loop cut to add edges to both ends. Select the edge and use bevel to add more edges. Select the face, hold Shift, increase its size, and extrude the new face. Select the edge on the extruded face and use the bevel function to create rounded edges. Create the same shape on the right side as well. When creating symmetrical objects, use the modifier function for easy creation. Next, I will introduce the mirror modifier function. Click the plus button in the right window to find the mirror button in the submenu. The mirror function transforms objects by mirroring them along the X, Y, or Z axes. Next, we will create a picture frame on the right wall. The picture frame will later be textured using the painting function directly within Unity. Let's modify the detailed shape of the bed frame. Divide the side face of the bed and create an inner face to modify the shape. Create an additional cylinder object to make the bedposts. Adjust the size to create posts at the ends of the bed. Select the top edge and use bevel to round the corners. Automatically select Smooth Group and use the Mirror modifier to create the opposite post. Automatically select Smooth Group and use the Mirror modifier to create the opposite post. Choose the Z axis and adjust the distance value to place the object correctly on the opposite side of the bed. The posts for the bed head will be created by duplicating the object. Increase the size of the duplicated object to create the posts. Use the mirror function to create posts of the same height on the opposite side. Next, let's create a book on top of the desk. Use a box object to create the shape of the book. Adjust the size and use bevel on the front edge. Select all faces and automatically set the Smooth Group. Next, we will create the plant for the flower pot. Create a cylinder to make an elongated column and reduce the top face to change the shape. Move the pivot to the center of the base and place it in the center of the pot. This column becomes the stem of the plant. Let's create the leaves of the plant. Create a new sphere object. We will use the FFD modifier function to create the leaves. Click the plus button in the right window to view the modifier functions. The FFD function creates virtual points to modify the shape of an object. The numbers following FFD indicate the number of points along the width and height. We will use the FFD function with 3 points along the width and height. Select 3, 3, 3. A virtual box line indicated by blue lines has been created. Selecting and moving the points modifies the shape of the object. Select all points on one side to create a deformed sphere. Adjust the size and automatically set the Smooth Group to complete the leaf. Place the leaf on the stem. Use this function again to modify the shape. Duplicate this object to place leaves around the stem. We will create a shape that naturally decreases in size as it goes upward. By varying the angles and sizes when creating the object, you can produce more natural-looking leaves. We will create a plant in the pot by placing leaves between the stems. You can also use the FFD function additionally to vary the shapes more diversely. Next, we will create a pillow and blanket on the bed. When creating organic shapes like a pillow, it's easier to use the modifier functions actively rather than moving each point individually. First, create a box object and use loop cut to create the basic shape of the pillow. Reset the values in the loop cut settings and create a single horizontal line. Select the added line and increase its size to shape the pillow. Add loop cuts horizontally and vertically, then reduce the size to make the pillow's inside concave. Select the middle edge of the pillow, apply bevel, and extrude the resulting faces to complete the shape. It still looks like a blocky pillow. Use the subdivide modifier to double the faces and create a smoother object. Activate the subdivide modifier and select the multiplication factor. Be careful not to create too many faces as it can overload the memory. We select the steps of subdivide to increase the faces. If the result is not as desired, uncheck the box to revert or click the minus button on the right to remove the subdivide function. We will modify some edges. Select the edges at each corner and apply bevel. Use the mirror modifier to create identical edges on all corners. Use the mirror modifier to create identical edges on all corners. Bend is a function that bends the object around an axis. Use bend to modify the pillow object. Using subdivide in this state can create sharper edges than before. Select the pillow's edge, move it downward to make the seams appear sharp. Adjust the position of the pillow. Duplicate the object and place another one below. Modify points or use the FFD function to adjust the model to an organic shape. Next, we will create the blanket. Create the blanket as a box object laid on the bed. Create a box object and extrude faces to make a blanket laid on the bed. Extrude the faces while moving them downward. Use the same method on the opposite side to create the blanket object. Once completed, duplicate the object and place it on top. Slightly reduce the size and modify the shape. Use the FFD function to organically modify the shape and subdivide to smooth the object. Increase the faces with subdivide and select the cloth to modify the model's shape. When modifying organic shapes, FFD is very useful for naturally changing the shape. Next, we will create a laptop object on the desk. Create a box object, divide the face with loop cut, and extrude the top face to make the laptop. Use the inset function to add faces and depict the screen and keyboard of the laptop. Check the overall appearance and make slight adjustments to the position. Lastly, we will model a chair. Create a box object to make the chair cushion. Then duplicate the object to make the chair legs. Use loop cut to divide the face for the chair legs. Select the face and extrude it downward to create the legs. The chair legs are symmetrical, so create one side and use the mirror function to complete it. Mirror it along the x-axis. We will also create the backrest of the chair. Select the looped edge, move it sideways, and then extrude the face. Similarly, create one side of the chair backrest. Use the mirror function again to create the object. Use the mirror function one more time along the x-axis. Create the mirrored model. Duplicate the chair cushion object to create it. After duplicating, adjust the size to complete the model easily. Select the chair cushion objects and apply bevel to the edges to round the corners. Use the subdivide function to increase the number of faces, making the object higher in polygons. Use subdivide to modify the chair legs. After activating subdivide, using loop cut will allow you to see and modify the final subdivided result. After completing the modifications, apply the modifier to finalize. Use subdivide to increase the number of faces and create a higher polygon object. Use the mirror function once more to ensure symmetry and finish the chair modeling. The chair modeling is complete. Let's slightly modify the blanket model. Currently, Smooth Group is applied automatically, making it look like a single face. We will disable the Smooth Group on the blanket and create a polygon art pattern. Select points and use Connect to form triangular faces. Freely select points and connect them in the desired diagonal direction. After slightly moving the points up, down, left, and right, select all faces and click Clear in the Smooth Group to reset. This will create a surface with a triangular polygon pattern. Next is the process of applying textures and creating materials. Right-click to open the pop-up menu and select and create a material. In the Texture Base Map, select the pre-prepared wood texture resource and apply it to the base map. Drag the material with the mouse and apply it to the object. If UV settings are needed for the applied object, create a UV editor window from the right panel to modify it. In the UV editor window, modify the UV mapping to adjust the texture size and spacing. The UV editor window supports various unwrap functions such as plane and cube and provides multiple tools to modify the unwrapped faces. Duplicate the material to create additional materials. Let's create the carpet material. For the carpet, use the pre-prepared texture image to create the material. This time, adjust the base map's default color to modify and apply the texture's color. Next, let's create materials for the blanket and bed. Create a material and modify only the base map color to create and apply a material using only basic colors. The saturation is too high, so let's slightly adjust the material color. Adjust the Color tab in the base map to create the material for the bed frame as well. Create the desk object material in the same way. To apply more than one material to an object, select the object and add materials in the Material tab on the right panel. We will create and apply materials to all remaining objects in the same way. Apply all materials with just colors. After applying all materials, you can adjust the material colors to create the room's atmosphere. We will create a texture for the picture frame using the Painting 3D feature. Create a sample material and apply it to the location where the texture will be drawn. In the right window, click the Painting window and press the Start button to activate painting mode. Select the brush color and use the mouse to draw directly in the scene view. In the right window, you can adjust detailed brush settings, create multiple layers, and change layer blending modes to paint the texture. You can draw freely or modify an existing texture. Choose colorful colors to complete the painting. The painting is complete. Currently, it is shown as a preview for creating the texture, so you need to create and apply the material. Press the Export button at the bottom of the right painting window to create an image file. Apply the recently exported image to the base map of the sample material. Select the material and apply the exported image to the base map. Next, we will create the sunlight effect coming through the window. Create an additional object and place it by the window. Delete all faces except one and move the points to simulate sunlight coming through the window. In the UV editor window, adjust the points so that one face is unwrapped across the entire UV editor screen. Create a material and apply the sunlight effect texture. Setting the shader to particle allows you to create a transparent material. Apply the material and adjust the points to make it look like sunlight. Let's add lighting objects as well. Create a light object in the left hierarchy window and place it in the room. Place point lights and spotlights around the room. Set the light color to yellow to create a cozy atmosphere. After placing the lights, we will proceed with light baking. Select all objects created with UModeler X for light baking. In the Settings window on the right, check the box to activate Static for all objects, then click the Generate UVs button. Once the settings are complete, press the Light Bake button to execute the light bake. Next, we will proceed with post-processing. In the URP render environment, use the Volume feature for post-processing. Create a volume object in the Hierarchy window. In the Settings window on the right, you can add various post-processing features. Before adjusting the settings, place an isometric camera to check the final output while performing post-processing. Place the camera and set it to isometric view. Set the camera settings so that empty spaces appear black. Proceed with post-processing through the volume object settings again. Apply various features while performing post-processing. The main features will be bloom, white balance adjustment, and color grading to adjust the color tone. Completed the final work by performing post-processing. We have used UModeler X for isometric modeling up to now. Thank you.